Hello, it's Wednesday night here in Australia. It's Wednesday morning, 11 a.m. in the UK, and it's between 3 and 6 a.m. in the USA. So welcome to Alive. I've been away for a couple of weeks. I got a bit sick, and also I thought I needed a break. So let's get started. Today I'm talking to Natalie Miller Snell from NMS Coaching, and she's coming in live now. I think she's coming in live now. There she is.
Hello, lovely. Good
How are you?
evening. I'm not too bad, actually. Do you know what? It doesn't
Good
matter.
morning, London. Good morning, London. These are the
Hello.
votes for the Eurovision.
Oh, wow. What a night as well, actually. Oh, my goodness. Did you watch it? Do you get it over there? Of course, you're now. Yes, of course. Australia is
I
well
think aren't we
involved.
complimentary people?
Yeah, I love it. Sorry, I'm just trying to fiddle with my camera. Do you know what? Every time I come on these things, it's never quite in the right spot. Do you know what I mean? To get
And
you in.
do you know what? It's in the wrong way as well, because your actual sign behind you is backwards.
Is it?
Yeah, so it says
How do I change that?
Kaya Kok Sm.
Love it. Apologies, everybody.
A ginger ot yemete.
Good,
That's
good
okay.
evening, good
Time to
morning, good
change.
afternoon. Exactly.
We're just changing the way the world is, and that's good. Look, it's doesn't matter, does it? We
No,
can
it
still,
absolutely
everyone will still
doesn't.
see it and say, "Look, I know what that lady's talking about."
Yeah. Well, I hope so. How are you,
Yeah.
lovely? You said you're a bit poorly. Are you feeling better?
Yeah, I have been poorly. A few things going on, and yeah, they're getting under control now, which is good. I had COVID as well, which wasn't good.
Oh, crikey.
Um,
Okay.
but that wasn't so bad. I didn't find that that bad. But I just had blood tests, and I'm what do
Okay.
you call it? I've got diabetes too.
Okay.
So, but that's not a big problem, because actually I started the medication 6 days ago, and I feel so much better. And
Brilliant.
every time I've been to see the doctor and had the blood tests, they've been going up and up and up. And they kept saying to me, do some exercise, eat this food. And I'm eating good food. I'm doing a bit of exercise, which is hard with fibromyalgia as well. But I
Okay.
said, look, just give me the tablets and let's see what happens. And my digestion's back to normal. I'm not tired all day long. So this is what I needed to do. And that's what you got to do sometimes. You just got to go,
Yeah.
look, do this and let's get on with it.
Brilliant. Oh, well done you. And is that a new diagnosis for you then? The
Yeah, so that's now
diabetes?
sixth diagnosis.
Okay. Crikey.
Yeah,
Bless you.
I can't wait to be, well, yeah, I can wait to be, but I do say to people, I can't wait to be in the Guinness Book of Records for person who's still
You
working
can
full time
get.
and doing loads of other stuff and has got so many illnesses they should be in bed.
There must be one. Do it, absolutely.
Have a sip of your tea. Are
Sorry,
you
say that
using that
again.
mug? Are you using that
No, do you
mug
know
that
what?
I
I just thought to myself that would be a great. I've got a branded mug for anyone who's interested that says on the side when so for anyone to see, think I seized the wrong day. Would have been the prime opportunity to actually use that one now, but no, I've just gone for a
yeah.
regular big
Well,
cup. I needed a
because,
big cup.
but you haven't seized the wrong day, have you? Because you're here, you're on
No,
live
I
stream
am.
with you, and this is the right day to seize.
Exactly. It's absolutely, do you know what? It's really lovely to see you because I know you've had a bit of a break as well. So it's nice to, get back, be doing this with you.
Oh, look, it is. It's really good. And you know what I was just saying to my housemate before? Generally, when I'm about to do one of these lives, I'm sitting there for the hour before going, I'm so exhausted. I don't want to do this. I don't know what to do. And I think this medication's changed me, because I was sitting there going, and I'm talking to this chick called Natalie, and she's in the UK, and she does life coaching, and it's going to be really good. I'm really buzzing. I've actually written some questions this week. And, so
Brilliant.
I feel so much better. And I almost feel, because it's sort of mental health, that I shouldn't be so happy, but we've got to be happy, because that's how people actually tune in and
Absolutely.
listen if you're happy.
Good
And you know it, clap your
positive
hands.
psychology. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Hi, Rebecca.
So,
Hello, everyone who's joining.
yeah, and if you have any questions, or if you hear any of the questions we ask and you want to comment on them, do comment. If you want to ask a question, there's the little round speech box with a question mark in it, and you can drop a question in there, and then we can both read it and we can answer your question to the best of our ability.
Brilliant.
So
I'm
I've got one
excited.
question for you first, which I
Go
want
on.
you to just sit with for a little while, because I just don't
Okay,
want it to be off the top of your head. So
fine.
if you could change anything to better the human race, what would it be?
Anything to better human race. Okay.
Yeah, but we'll come back to that later.
Yeah.
It's almost like one of those Alzheimer's tests. I'm going to ask you a few questions and then come back to them.
Okay.
You know
So
where they say to
I've
you,
just written it
can you,
down, Daniel.
oh, okay, where they say to you, can you remember a teacup, a horse, and a
Yeah,
dog?
that's it.
And then they talk to you about other things. What were those three things? I can't even remember them. When I see them do those tests, I'm like, what were those things?
That's brilliant. I love that. I'm going to have a think on that now. We'll ponder through. We might just actually fall out of our conversation anyway.
All right, so what have you been up to? Because I've seen that you've done some training with some people recently, group
Yeah.
training. What was
Yeah,
that like?
absolutely. It's team coaching. Really fantastic, actually. Do you know what? Getting back into the face-to-face arena is
Yeah,
really quite magic. Working online, and I look over here because this is where my computer is brilliant, and it really serves an absolutely fantastic purpose when we're remote, when we're unable to all get in the same, physical location, and also with
yeah,
things like COVID, all of that kind of all of those kind of dramatic things that influence life that show us that we can work in a different way. So online totally has a purpose, so does the hybrid working. But there's actually something quite magic about being in the presence of other people and having that kind of energy in that conversation. So it's really fabulous. I was with a retailer, was it last week? Yeah, delivering some team coaching with them. So it's an established team already, but they've got new folk who have joined as well. So it's just
yeah,
talking to them a bit about and introducing the team coaching principle and actually what that looks like for individuals to work together and the foundations that you need to have in that kind of environment, drawing on the Patrick Lencioni school of thought. I don't know if you've read his book, The Five Dysfunctions
no,
of a Team. It's really great. I recommend everybody reads it. It's fabulous. But it talks about in any kind of given team or any kind of setup, trust and vulnerability, and this is Brené Brown's ballpark as well, is
yeah,
really important to actually set the foundation in order that you can then be able to work together and have the healthy conflict, have the healthy challenge. And then from that, you can find commitment with everybody because you're all signed on to the process. And then you
yeah,
work to accountability and then you get the results. So it's really just getting them all to be themselves, actually show up authentically as they were, talk to each other in a way that they don't normally do when it's just work focus. So actually,
yeah.
how do you function as a team? Where do you want to go? What's your team ambition? It was lovely, Daniel. It was really lovely. It was so good to be back out there doing it.
And I guess strengths and what's the opposite of strengths? Negatives. Working on or what strengths they've
Areas for
got. And
development.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
come up here. It's always good when you, oh, look, I've got the dog behind me. It's
Love
always,
it.
now she's going to sit there and I have to sit right forward like this. Um, yeah, it's always good, isn't it, to work on strengths and realize, say, in a team of five that two or three people think the same way, and then being able to get the other two people to sort of work in with that. Whereas
Absolutely.
you're not treading on the toes of those two people who haven't thought that way. It's getting them all to see a similar way of working together, which will look. You have to come out of there. Come on over here because you're too big and I can't sit back. Oh Jesus!
It's exactly that. While you
Go on
negotiate
over
that,
there.
but you're quite
Oh,
right because there's so many personalities in a team. There's so many different dynamics, and it's actually really about listening to each other. It's about respecting each individual for who we are, what we can bring to the table, listening, and having that healthy dialogue where someone
yes, I was
doesn't
just going to
always
say open
run. Yeah,
dialogue.
exactly that. Yeah, and sometimes there's conflict. We need to have that element of conflict or disagreement or challenge to
Yeah,
get the best result. But it's having that foundation first off that you feel comfortable, the psychological safety, the feeling comfort that you can speak up, say, I don't agree with that. Maybe I've made a mistake or maybe I'm not sure about this and have that space to then work and really build on it to further develop, experience and the expertise within a team.
yeah. And look, I always used to think, especially when I did in my bachelor, I did conflict resolution. And we spent, I don't know, 12 weeks, two assignments, two essays and an exam on it. And what I learned from that is rather than using the word conflict, using differences, because
Yeah.
everybody goes, oh, yeah, we do have differences. When you say, oh, you've got conflict, they go, what? Why have we got conflict?
Mm,
I don't have a problem with them. So it's almost a jarring word, isn't it? Conflict.
Yeah.
Whereas difference is, and I guess there's other words that we could use as well, actually open it up a bit better and make everyone feel as though they're going to be heard, and it's not about them being the bad one.
You know, you're quite right. And I think you and I probably spoke about this before when we caught up last time. There's something about language that's really important. You know, the words that we use, how you frame something as well, can be really empowering, and equally it can be really destroying. It can really knock something. There was a great little video I watched the other day just about, I can't remember the main topic of the video, but effectively it was how do you see things? Do you see things negatively or do you see them positively, naturally? And there's no, you know, criticism on self in that regard. It's just to become aware of it. And actually there was a study on there. They talked about when it was in a doctor scenario, when they framed the success rate as 70%, so many more people got behind whatever needed to happen in terms of the health situation. Whereas when they framed it, it was 30% failure. You know, no one got behind it. And equally,
it's amazing, isn't it?
Absolutely. You know, that's exactly the same dynamic, but it's how you frame it. And there's something to be said about the power of language, you know, the inclusivity of it all, but also how it can drive people forward and, you know, propel people and elevate people.
And look, I was listening to a new podcast. Well, it's not new. I think it's about 2 years old, called The Mind Tradie. He's a guy who lives here in Melbourne. And he was talking about reframing a situation. And I had actually completely forgot about doing reframes. And I was talking to someone yesterday and they were saying, oh, something didn't go really right. And, you know, it would have been nice if this person had done that. And I went, well, actually, if you reframe it and look at it, they actually did do something. And it's not as bad as what it could have been. And they were like, oh, actually, I didn't think of it that way. So now I've got reframing in my head again, because there's so many situations where you go, this is so bad. But when you reframe it, there's usually a positive in there somewhere that you can grab onto and go, actually, this works. It does work. And I was looking at it in a completely negative way. And now I look at it in a slightly different way. Reframed, it's good.
Absolutely. And you know, you've just made me think of something as well. There's something in positive intelligence, I believe it is, and also kind of improv and how, you know, the improvisation. No, improv. Oh, what is a person when they do improvisation?
Yeah,
improviser. Thank you. There you go. I couldn't get the word. When they do their work, there's a great tool you can use. And again, this is in conversation with people. Let's just say you and I were having a conversation now, and I do not agree with anything you're saying, or I don't see any positive in it, much like you did with your friend. There will be at least 10% of goodness in there. So in order to establish and build that conversation, you can say, what I liked about what you just said is, and then say the positive stuff. And then that builds the conversation more. That then brings out different thinking, and that then enables both parties to just tap into their mind differently and, you know, be creative with thought.
Yeah, definitely. And think more positively about the situation rather than what was negative about it.
Exactly that.
10% positivity. I was going to sneeze here before.
Yeah, I was going to say, bless you.
Can really change a whole situation around, because when you're all thinking in a negative way, you're just going to keep going down further and further into negativity, and you're not going to see any way out of that. But when you start looking for those little bits of positivity, then you realize, oh, there's actually a bit more and a bit more. And before you know it, the whole conversation's turned around. I mean, people who try and do something and it doesn't work for them, they generally go, oh, well, I tried it and it didn't work, so I've given up. But I always like to think with myself is that when something didn't work, I've sat with it for a couple of days or a couple of hours and then looked for the opportunities in there that I might have missed when I first ran at it going, oh, I'm going to do this. And then realize, oh, actually, I missed a couple of steps here, that once I put those in, this will work a lot better. Or maybe ring someone and say, look, I've got this problem. I don't know how to solve it. Can you think of something? And 9 times out of 10, a friend, a family member will go, hey, did you think of this? And you go, oh, God, why didn't I think of that? Well, it's because you're so, sometimes we can be so laser focused on something that we don't see the little bits that put it all together.
You know, you're bang on the money, and that's actually where coaching, I mean, of course, I'm going to talk about coaching being a great thing.
Go for it.
But it is having...
Natalie Miller Snell.
Bless you. But that's where it really is truly powerful, because you work with somebody, and I've got my own coach. As you say, when you're so laser focused on something, sometimes you can't see actually the bigger picture around you. And when you've got somebody prompting you with questions to say, okay, well, I heard you say this, but I didn't hear you say this, or you're working on this part, Is there another part to it? Or what aren't you considering? Or how are you getting in your own way? Or what are you avoiding that needs attention? When someone just prompts you to ask all of those questions, then things kind of slap you in the face slightly differently. And it reminds me of who invented the light bulb? Thomas Edison.
Yes.
And I don't know, I can't remember the exact quote, so please forgive me. But it was something like he said he didn't fail to invent the light bulb however many times it was before. I just invented a light bulb that didn't work, 100,000 times. So it's looking at, what you learn from everything that you go through and how you can use the good stuff in it to help propel you and move you up. Because arguably everything we do is a stepping stone towards, our next vision, our bigger goal. If I consider, where I was before COVID, where I was a year ago, where I was at the start of the year, even 3 months ago, I've changed massively already. And I imagine the same is for you too. I mean, what's that, your growth in this year so far already? What's that been like for you?
Look, it's been good. And I must admit, I have had a couple of times where I've gone, I think it's time I just abandoned Instagram and abandoned the podcast, because I think more for me, I was getting really tired out with everything I was doing. And then I didn't feel like I was committing enough to when I was doing a recording of a podcast. And I don't say that some of the podcasts I did weren't as good as others, because I think they're all really good in their own way. But I think with some people, I'd actually think a little bit about what they told me before we started, or I was not so tired when we were talking that I was switched on and I could actually analyze and bring out some good questions. And so I thought, look, do I want to go on? And I thought, look, I'm just going to take 4 weeks off. So that's why I'm on a break from the podcast until June the 12th, because I just needed that stopgap to... Also, I was running where I was recording a podcast the week it had to go out. So I was recording on a Wednesday, getting edited Friday, coming back to me Saturday, and Sunday, bang, it's out. So I didn't have much time to promote. And now I've done 3 new podcasts. I've got another 3 to do this week, another 2 next week. So when the podcast actually starts again on June 12th, I think I've got 7 or 8 ready recorded, which is how I used to do it. And, I know a lot of the guests go, oh, but I have to wait 3 months. But that's what it is, because then I can do a better podcast. If I'm running through them in a week's time, and then you get someone who rings up and goes, or emails and says, oh, actually, I can't do the podcast this week. And it's like, that's okay. I don't have anything to go out this week. And I did have one where I did a repeat because someone had to cancel, and that's fair enough. But yeah, so now I'm more pumped up about it again now, because I've taken that break. I've had some time to think about it. I've had some time to contact guests that I wanted to speak to. So, it invigorates it. But I get people who say to me, oh, I just want a big podcast. Yeah, so do I. I want a bigger podcast than what I've got. But you know what it's like. It's recording, it's editing, it's promoting, it's finding the guests that actually want to come on. And sometimes luckily I've only had one, but sometimes you talk to people and you're talking to them and you just think, oh, God, I don't even know how to save this podcast, because it's just so uninteresting. So, but that doesn't happen very often, because you and I are good talkers. So, usually I can revive something.
But you're speaking to my soul, Daniel. I really understand what you're coming from, because I'm actually on a bit of a break with mine as well. We're on a break. What was it Rachel and Ross said? We're on a break. But it's so true.
Friends.
Have you not?
No.
It's a quality classic line. It's a big old thing. They were on a break, and then, well, actually, I don't need to go into it, but it's brilliant for anyone who does watch Friends.
Give me an analysis of the episode.
Well, they're no. But I know I'm the same, because I was very much doing the same thing, and I look at it. Actually, it's a lot of reflection and coming on the back of COVID, because we've navigated different ways of working, changes, adaptation, the world opening up again, and then having to be back on fire almost, if you like. And I was in the same situation as you. I was recording quickly, sometimes literally a couple of days before it was going out, to then get it out. Yeah. And I just thought, no, I'm chasing my tail here. I really need to reflect. Interestingly, I was recording a podcast on overwhelm, because so many of my clients and friends were presenting with overwhelm, talking about overwhelm. And I just was kind of, actually, I need to follow my own advice here a bit, I need to give myself permission I'm just going to take a pause now, regroup. And it's been the best decision I made. So I actually really understand exactly what you're saying. Really understand it.
Well, look, I mean, the last 2 weeks I had, the first week someone pulled out of a live, and that was okay. And then last week a bit sick, and I just thought, oh, I can have another week off. You know,
Yeah.
these are booked pretty much till the end of the year, and it's nice to actually have some time to not have to worry about what you've got to do next, and just come home
Brilliant.
from work and just watch TV, play
And
with the
chill out
dog, do something else. Yeah.
and look after yourself.
Yeah, and when I said to a few people, I'm just taking a break, they were like, oh, God, Daniel, I'm so glad that you're having a break. And then I realised how much I must be working if people are telling me that I need to take a break who I've met on here. So, you know,
That says
people are
something.
realising I never stop, and it's time to stop and have a break.
Absolutely. Right, I've
Oh,
got a
I've got
question for
two.
you, if I may.
No,
Oh,
I've got
go
a
on, you
question
go.
for you first.
Okay.
Yeah, two things that you think have changed your life, and it can be, you know, like a teacher when you're a kid. It could be a job you did. It could be a partner you met. It could be a jigsaw puzzle you did. Anything that you think really changed your mind, and you're thinking, you went, "Wow, actually, that was really good."
Two things. I might group them into big umbrellas if that's okay, or rather
Go on then.
bigger categories. Moving into the coaching space has actually really changed my life because it's given, and I'm going to use the same word again actually, it allowed me to give myself permission to really tap into and do what I want to do, what matters
Yep.
to me, what's important to me, and actually finding that alignment, finding that connection, and really talking to my soul and doing something that flows for me that I find relatively easy because I'm so enthused by it that I will learn and digest
Yep.
everything
Yep.
has been transformational. It really has been. And actually, the more I don't chase things, the more I allow myself to sit back and think, okay, where do I want to go? A bit like that pausing we were talking about. More things happen. So it's actually given me the opportunity to really reflect about what's important, about what I love doing, and really focus on those areas in my life. So that's been quite a big change or influence. What was the specific word you used on your question? What's changed?
Yeah, two things that changed your life.
Changed, yeah. So that's definitely changed my life. Moving into the coaching space
Yep.
changed my life. Oh, so many, Daniel, actually. So many.
You've only got one more.
Anyway, yeah, okay, I really, so many. What's changed my life? Just, you know what? And again, this is a bit of a broad brush because there's so much to it. But just the people I have met actually over the last couple of years have been so influential in my life. Again, I think maybe because seeing me for who I am and what I want to do, and a bit of me opening myself up in that regard as well, has been
Yep.
transformational. So a lot of people who I've met recently, including your good self actually, has had paved and had a really positive change in the way I deal with things. And therefore that's then changed, not changed me, but changed how I approach things. And I'm
Yep.
much more, yes to things that ordinarily terrify me because I know I'm in the right place.
Yep.
Does
Good.
that make sense? Even
Oh,
so, even though it
definitely.
does still terrify me, I would have said no before without a second, thought. But now I'm
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
that's where I want to go. Just get on and do it. But because it feels
Well,
right, it works. Do you know what I mean?
look, 3 years ago, before I started the podcast, and I just started my business, and we had networking nights, and we had a few people come, 10, 20 people, and I really started to just be able to talk to the whole group. Before that, I was so scared of ever standing
Okay.
up in public speaking. Then doing the podcast, that gave me more motivation. Doing these gives me more motivation. And now I realize, because I always had a belief that, and this is from when I went to, is it called middle school in the UK, or was it called middle school? Junior school, middle school,
Junior school. That's
senior
it. Yeah,
school.
exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I had a teacher who always told the guys in the class they'd never amount to anything. And that was my belief. And when I did my
Crikey.
counseling, the tutor I used got me over that and got me to believe in myself. But I still wasn't willing to sit and talk about what I knew because I didn't think I actually knew what I knew.
Mm.
And the mentor I became really good friends with. And one day she said to me, when I just started the podcast and I was scripting them all and reading them all, and she said, they'd sound so much better if you just said it from your head.
And I go, yeah, I know, but I can't remember everything. And she goes, write it in point form and just get it out, because you know it all. It's not like you don't know anything about psychology. You really know what's going on, and you will be so much better. And once I started doing that, and when I started talking to people, I thought, no, I'm not going to use questions, because I know what I want to ask in my head, and they're probably the questions that the people at home want to ask as well. So then I started believing in myself. And now, I can come on here for half an hour, and I don't think, oh my God, what if I can't think of something? Because I'll always think of something. Yeah, and when you were talking about improvisation before, I actually remembered that back in my 20s, when I wanted to be an actor, I did quite a few improvisational courses, like comedy.
Okay.
And so you had to think on your feet, and I hadn't
Yeah.
thought about that for years. But I guess that's why I can usually think of something to say, because, they'd say, okay, you're this, and you're in this area, and this is what you're doing. And bang, I'd be straight into it.
And did you enjoy that?
I loved it until I had to actually do it on stage in front of people. So in the classroom, I loved it. I didn't love having to be on a stage with like 100, 200 people watching. Yeah, that was then scary, because you never know what the fine line is. I mean, I know back then we were a bit more open about everything, but nowadays it's like, you can't say this about this, you can't do that, you can't. So you have to really try and think of what you can say that's not going to offend anybody. And in some ways, I think we've become a bit too close-minded, because there are lots of things that could be said, but people are now too scared to say it.
Do you know what? Yeah, I totally know what you mean. I was actually having this conversation with a friend just the other day. It's a really tricky, fine line, I think, to balance. And I don't envy comedians, improvisers, anybody actually at the moment, because on one hand, you get joy, or rather we can find humour in actually the most disastrous things that happen, and we often talk about, if you have something that's happened at home, one of my father's friends had his legs amputated, and the first thing they joked around was like, they took his slippers away and said, well, you won't be needing those anymore. But it really helped, kind of, okay, and that kind of sounds really awful, but it helped in that moment. But there's a fine line, because I think, unfortunately, where some comedy goes, or some areas of dialogue, it can be quite discriminatory. I cannot get my words out today, but it can also be quite attacking, quite hateful. So there is a real balance.
It can also be that whatever you're talking about, you could have one person of that group who went, yeah, that was really funny, and then another person who goes, no, it wasn't. So it's such a fine line. But then also, I think sometimes what comedians talk about actually brings it out into the world for more people to hear about, and they actually accept it through the humour. Whereas without the humour, they might go, oh, that's not me, I'm not, nothing to do with that. Whereas they hear a well-known comedian talk about something, and they go, actually, well, if he's talking about it, maybe it's not so bad. So there's those sort of things as well. But
exactly.
It's always going to be a fine line, isn't it? I mean,
totally. I mean, I've heard enough gay jokes in my life, but I can find some of them quite funny, actually. The stereotyping and whatever, and I wouldn't draw offence, but I do understand that it does offend other people. So, and on that, happy definitely. Pride Month.
Is it?
Yes, first today. Yeah.
Is that in,
1st of June? It's the whole month
in the
now.
UK.
Is it not?
I don't think it's here. I think ours is in March, because it's summer then.
Maybe.
So you're going into summer now, aren't you?
Summer. Well, apparently, but it's not very nice outside.
It's freezing here. It's freezing. You wouldn't want to be here at the moment.
Oh, exactly. What's freezing though, Daniel? Really?
I don't know. I'll tell you what it says on my watch now. It's 5 degrees centigrade.
Okay, no, that is cold. Yeah, that is near freezing. All right, I'll give you that.
Yeah, look, I don't usually find it that bad, but today we've had pouring rain, and we don't get a lot of. Well, we do get rain, but not like it was today. Yeah. I mean, I've been in England when it's rained, and that is rain. I've never seen rain like it anywhere else.
It's quite amazing.
All right, another question for you. If you had 10K, which wasn't to be spent on family or friends, how would you use it to help the community?
How would I use it to help the community? Oh, I thought he was going to be for myself. Damn it.
No.
How would I use it to help the community?
Someone gives you 10K and says, go and do something good with this. What would you do?
I would it's interesting you asked that, actually, because one of the missions and the vision within NMS coaching is to provide free coaching for women and children of domestic abuse specifically, but actually, you know, bigger for anyone who really needs it, who can't afford the coaching. So I would look to invest that and then be able to offer out the free coaching. So use that as kind of, I would set up some kind of perhaps some team or group sessions, but then also create something where it's a safe environment to actually enable people to come out and help lift them, because that is a big drive for me. And in fact, all of my clients and all of my clients, be they one-to-one or corporate, when they invest with me, they're actually enabling that to happen, which is amazing. And that's one of the biggest drives in terms of why I do what I do as well. You do it because you love it and everything else, but actually at the core, there's something about me wanting to provide a free aspect for people who, can't afford it. So I would look to do it that way.
Okay.
Great question.
That's great. Yeah. Well, I was just thinking, people ask people, if you had 10 grand, what would you do? And people go, I just spend it on my family and friends. But I thought, no, what would you do that would actually help the community? That was brilliant, because yes, I mean, more services for everything. Have you, I know you get funding from corporate, and that helps you do that anyway.
No, absolutely, yeah. And I sat in on International Women's Day earlier this year. Again, it enabled me just to take the day off and then offer my support and services to a charity who needed support in growing with their business and just needed to pick brains, needed advice. And there were a few people that joined in. It was brilliant, absolutely amazing. So it gives me the opportunity to do that, which is fabulous.
Yeah, now you say that, after I finished my counselling diploma, I had a friend who was an artist who wanted to start an art school but didn't know how to do it. So I helped her set all that up. Now she's got quite a good art. It's not huge, but it's a business for her. And there was someone else as well that I helped them set something up. And afterwards I was like, wow, I didn't even know I could set things like that up. But I just believed that, and I knew they needed the help and they didn't know what to do. So we just sat down and worked out what to do, and there we go.
Brilliant.
Businesses are formed, yeah.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Do you want me to ask you a question?
Yeah, go on.
Go on, okay.
Can't be hard or tricky, though.
No, it's going to be lovely, don't you worry. Someone asked me this actually the other day when I joined a call. What was happening the last time you laughed so hard that you started crying, or that you cried? Your eyes leaked.
Yeah, look, it happened today with my mum.
Did it? Wicked!
She hasn't got dementia or anything. She's got Parkinson's. And I said to her today, look, I think what you need to do is in the afternoon, have a nap for about an hour just in your chair. Because I think as the day goes on, this was around 5 o'clock, I said, I think you don't think properly because you're overtired. And what she said was, she's got a walker, and she said to me, oh, it doesn't turn around properly. So I got up and turned it around, and the brakes don't work. And I do it, and the brakes worked. And she goes, well, you don't know what it's like when you've only got 2 legs and a head. And I went, what are you talking about? And she said, 2 legs and a head. And I go, but I've got 2 legs and a head. And she goes, yeah, but what about the arms? And I go, well, we've got arms too. Look, probably not as funny to you, but because it came out, I was crying. And then after a little while, Mum understood why I was laughing so hard, and she thought it was really funny.
Bless
But,
her.
she comes out with these silly little things by accident.
Yeah.
Like a couple of months ago, she was going to put her sandals on, and she couldn't quite get her foot in, and she said, I can't get my foot in the sandwich. Like, the sandwich. And she didn't think it was that funny, but after 5-10 minutes, then she thought it was really funny. She said, well, I just mixed up the words and I call it a sandwich.
That is adorable. And actually, anyone who's on
laugh at your mum?
No, I think I always laugh at my family. It's brilliant, and that's where you get joy. You all know each other, don't you? It's lovely. More often than not, I end up tear laughing because of my family as well. Absolutely. My kids say the most hilarious things. And in fact, actually, anyone who's on, if you want to answer that and pop it in the comments, what was happening the last time you laughed so hard that you cried? It's such a brilliant question.
Yeah, look, it is a good question. And I mean, look, at work today, because I'd been off, the guys were so happy to see me again. And we had some really good funny times today, where I laughed a lot and they laughed a lot. And, look, I feel really lucky. I don't usually say the word blessed, but I feel really lucky that I have a job where I get to be silly, funny, and laugh most of the day, dance around stupidly with some of the guys in the studio. and but still work and still help them to learn how to communicate better and all those sort of things. So it's a real working environment, but it's also such a funny place. And today, being back after 7-8 days off, all of them hugged me and told me how much they loved me. And so where else could you work where you just feel so great about yourself all day? It's
That's
brilliant.
incredible.
I love it.
And
Yeah.
there's so much science behind actually the importance of laughing and smiling and that kind of, all of the natural chemicals we make from that hug as well, that just naturally lift us. I mean, laughing's really fab.
I'll say as well is that, I've been off work sick for a week and I actually do feel like I'm rejuvenated and I feel like I feel better, like I'm even breathing better and I just feel like I'm thinking better. And obviously I needed that time off. But when you're on a roll and you're like, oh, no, I love what I do and blah, blah, blah. And then when you're forced to stop and you do stop, and I didn't bring my laptop home from work, I'd left it there. So I didn't have laptop to do any work on. I tried doing stuff on my phone. It was too hard to do. So I just watched loads of telly, comedy, slept, played with the dog, and it was like, wow, I forgot what it was like to just actually really rest.
That's absolutely amazing.
Jennifer has just said, when I did my first live with my son, we were laughing so hard we cried right before we went live. And I remember
Brilliant.
that because I saw that back on the video. And yes, it's good, isn't it? It's really good to laugh. And especially with family or friends, to really share a really good funny joke or something that's really funny that's happened, like my mum saying that. And, there are so many funny things around us and we've just got to let go and laugh.
Absolutely. And do you know what as well? It also inspires me to use that as content in my emails that I send out as well, or content in shows. Because, I can't remember what my son said the other day. Oh, it'll come to me. I've got it written down somewhere. But actually in those brilliant moments, there's real gems that you can pull on. If you write down actually what's really going on, there's a message in there somewhere that we can all use and actually bring into our lives to enable and elevate, which is really magic, really magic.
Well, look, some of my updates that I do on Instagram are based on conversations I've had with people or something they've said and I've gone, really? Or really? So, and when I said that a couple of weeks ago, no, it must have been a month ago, someone said to me, oh, is any of that to do with our conversations? And I went, I can't even remember our conversations. But when I hear something, I think that's a good update.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I've got another question for you. Go on.
Right,
well, no, you go.
No, you go.
This one's a bit more involved for you. And bearing in mind, so this is going to be interesting because you've been a bit poorly. What have you been avoiding that needs your attention?
Well, like I said before, the podcast, I think, needed a bit more attention. And having the week off, in that week, finding people, having people contact me, because I get lots of people who want to be guests. And basically what I do is I pin the email and then I never get time to go back to it. So last week I went through and I had 60 podcasts where people wanted to come on.
Wow.
And I just went through them and worked out the ones I wanted and said no to the ones I didn't. Whereas a couple of years ago, when I first started, I said yes to everybody. But now I think I want to just focus on the people that really, the topics they've got are really important and are good for people to listen to.
Brilliant.
Because I get some people who, some of the stuff they want to talk about, I just say, look, what do you think it's got to do with my podcast? And they go, oh, I just want to be on a podcast. Well,
yeah.
I want to be on a podcast. Well, I don't really want to be on lots of podcasts, but, it's got to be of interest to the person listening. It's got to be interesting to me. And it's got to be something that I guess other people aren't talking about.
Yeah.
That's what I've really loved with the podcast is especially Connor, who came on and talked about being anorexic at 12. And some of the people I've spoken to who have been through cults, really interesting. And because I did those 3 different ones on different cults, I've now been in contact with a lady who is a professor of cults worldwide. Like she's the top poobah in the world to talk about cults. And she's going to be coming on. And, I feel like, as we were saying before, it's not about getting from A to B. It's what happens in the middle. And when I think about all those podcasts I've done and some of the people who I wanted to do said, "Oh, you don't want to hear my story?" And I go, "Yeah, I do." They've resonated with people, and also they've made me more empathetic. And look, everybody who's been on has molded me into who I am now, for how I am as a conversationalist and interviewer. Without all those people that I've spoken to before, I wouldn't be where I am now. And it's important when you're talking to different people to understand where they're coming from. And because I've had a few people say, "Oh, that person you spoke to, I wanted you to ask this question." And I go, but that's almost like trying to catch someone out, or making them feel ashamed of what's happened to them. And it's not about that. It's about listening to the story. And if you find that there's more you want to hear, then these people are all on Instagram, or they've got their website. Contact them yourself and say, "Hey, look, I heard that podcast with Dan, and I really liked what you were talking, but I just wanted to know about this." And I'm sure 9 times out of 10, these people go, "Yeah, look, I'm happy to tell you what happened." But I'm not the one who's going to sit there, and especially people who have been through cults. I ask a lot of questions, but I like to ask the ones that I think are relevant, and not the ones that are just for a wow factor.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And yeah, I think that's an incredible approach, actually. It's about listening. And can I answer your question from earlier now that you posed me right at the beginning?
If you could
what would you
change
change?
anything to better the human race,
What would it be?
Yeah.
It's about that. It's about listening, and it's about listening to understand. And in that, I'll add in kindness as well. So I'm being a bit cheeky. I'm throwing in a few things. But it would be marvellous if we all actually had that driving us to really listen to somebody.
Sorry,
to hear
I was
what's
just the way. No, I was listening. Go on, yeah. That drive, yeah, good.
to really listen, to understand what's going on with a want and a desire to understand about the other person. You might not necessarily agree with everything, but to really understand, and then that develops that conversation, that develops the questions, that develops the curiosity, and it is about remaining curious a bit longer. And then in that, we can find empathy, we can be compassionate, and kindness will come, and it will just make everybody operate very, very differently, rather than having these views that person's wrong, that group over there's wrong. God, I wouldn't go near them over there.
Yeah.
What, that person, you have a conversation with somebody, actually understand what's going on with them, because at the core root of everything, with everybody you'll speak to, you'll find there is a drive for us all to be loved, for us all to, be listened to and seen as we are. And actually, when we can really communicate on that level and listen, I think the world would be a remarkably different place.
And you are perfectly right, because 90% of us, and look, I have conversations like this too. Someone says something to you, and before they've finished, you're already working out what you're going to say.
So, yeah.
It's different if you're in a podcast where you have to analyze the conversation to get the questions out and make it work like that. But if you and I were talking as friends and you said something, I might jump in and go, "Oh, yeah, I wanted to say blah, blah, blah."
Yeah.
And I'm not actually listening to what the rest of it is, because I'm so excited about telling you what I want to tell you. And in the end, you both sort of get a bit pissed off with each other, because it's like, well, you didn't really listen to me, and I don't think she listened to me. And, and if we can listen more and, take the time to understand where the person's coming from. One of the greatest things I ever learned was, and I've said this before, the person who cuts you off when you're driving and you get pissed off or angry.
Yeah, this is a good one. Go on.
That to just sit with it, because I don't know if they're racing a pregnant partner to the hospital, someone's died, they might just be late for work and an arsehole. But we have to give them the benefit of the doubt, because if I spend 10 minutes screaming and shouting about what they did, I don't get anything back from that. I just get angry, because I'm never going to see that person again, or I'm not likely to see them again. And why are we wasting our time being angry with someone who we don't know their circumstances? And I have had people say to me, "Well, it doesn't matter about their circumstances, they shouldn't do it." And I go, well, maybe they shouldn't. But I like to think of it that unless I know the circumstance of why that happened, it's the same as, if someone starts yelling at you and you're like, "Oh shit, I must have done something wrong. What did I do wrong?" They might just keep yelling at you. You're better to walk away than stand there and go, "Well, what did I do?" Because they're in an angry state. It might be that they've had a death in the family or something, or they've done something wrong and they're pissed off, but they just need to let it out. And you'll probably find if you walk away 5 minutes later, they're going to come back to you and go, "Sorry, I lost it, but this happened or that happened." And you go, "No worries. I thought something must have happened. But if I scream back at them, then they scream back at me, and I don't
Yeah.
fight, so there wouldn't be a fight. But, you know, it, it's an easy way to diffuse it, isn't it? To walk away, calm
Absolutely.
down, and then come back and think about it.
And do you need to use your energy, as you said? And also with the other person that mentioned to you, well, they shouldn't be doing it. That then assumes that we as individuals don't ever do anything wrong and that we're perfect if we're casting judgment on somebody else.
Casting judgment, good.
And that's just not it. That's just not the case. No one of us is perfect. We all do something that, you know, from an outside point of view, someone might say, "Oh." So it's actually removing the judgment, and it's just literally being curious and listening to people. And as you've rightly said, in dialogue, you get so excited and you might, you know, want to share something and not forget it. And I think that's some of the battle too with folks in dialogue. But when we listen to somebody, and a question I would pose to anyone who's watching this back or watching now, think of a time when you were really listened to. And how do you know that you were being really listened to? What's going on? And who was that person you were with? And then actually maybe just drop them a message and tell them that you love them or something. Or,
well,
you know, say hi to them.
They?
Yeah, they're a keeper.
They're a keeper.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we don't get a lot of people who really listen. You know, you get friends that you ring up and you speak to and you go, "Hi, how are you?" And then you hear all about them. And then they go, "Okay, got to go now." And you think, "Oh, okay, great. That was a great conversation." On the other hand, I do think, well, they obviously needed to get a lot of stuff out. Yeah. But you can come out of the conversation going, "Well, I didn't get to say what I wanted to say," which can then be a moment of pissing you off. Or you can just go, "Well, that doesn't matter. That's it."
That's a really interesting and good point because, I mean, I see it in the coaching space a lot. People sometimes just need to talk. And then if I think in a social environment, somebody might just need to talk as well. And then it's kind of, who am I going to talk to? But it's about finding that space or actually saying to someone, "Can you just listen to me? I've got loads to get off my chest." And actually, you know, doing it that way. So we're actually telling people what our needs are. Because actually also as well, more often than when we don't tell somebody what our needs are, they don't know. So they won't ever react how you want them to. So it's actually about that bit of communication, which links beautifully into language and listening and all of that good stuff.
And that's very good because you've just taught me now what I need to do when I'm talking to someone who's not letting me talk. I need to just say, "Listen, I just needed to tell you a few things. That's why I called you." No, I don't need to highlight that I called you. I just need to say, "Look, I just wanted to talk."
Yeah, I literally
it's
just
my
need
call.
you for...
My call.
I just need you.
You ring me.
That's brilliant. But you know what? This links back to, you know, being loved and everything. How we deal with ourselves and how we love ourselves and what we show ourselves is telling everybody around us what we need. So if we're not getting, we need to show that to people as well. We need to also tell people sometimes, "I just need this from you."
And look, maybe that's where, that's probably my deficit because I don't tend to tell people that I need to do something or I need to have a conversation. You know, it goes back to being a people pleaser, I guess. You just want to help people and let them do what they need to do and you forget your own needs. And that's, you're just... Look, these things are good because I've said to people as well that, you know, I hope they get lots out of it when they watch back. But also, I mean, there's lots of times I've done these, like now, where I'm learning from you and other people I've spoken to, and they've gone, "Oh, wow, I never thought of it that way." There was one I did about how we learned to categorize things as a child. And, you know, it's put everything into blue, green, yellow, and then it might be all the transport vehicles together. And then they'll say, "Okay, we want you to do something different." And some child will pick up a yellow bus, a green car and a blue motorbike and put them together. And it's like, no, that's not right. It's got to be green, yellow. But that person's actually thinking outside the box, which is definitely what we want. We want to have that opportunity for them to see it how they see it. And I don't know if they've changed the way that they teach kids now in school. That was how I learned, was you had to categorize things into colors, into, you know, all those different things. So you actually, And look, maybe that is a good way of learning because you learn all those different skills. But I think nowadays we need to be thinking a lot more out of the box to what we were back in those days. And we probably are. You've got kids that go to school, I don't. So, you know.
But it's asking questions as well. Sorry,
Yeah.
I interrupted you. It's asking the questions as well, though. If someone's done something in a particular way, be it a child, be it even an adult, okay, what does that mean for you when you're doing it that way? And what is it that drives you to do it that way? So then, as you say, I can learn from you, you can learn from me, because words, language, everything we do has a different meaning for each of us, which is
Yeah.
so incredible. And we can really open our eyes, develop and evolve, arguably, when we actually understand why someone else is doing something that way.
Yeah. Jennifer has just said, when I taught, I always wanted out-of-the-box thinkers, which is great.
Love it.
Sarah Shopney said, if you tell them, you give them a chance to step up. And they're good comments. And look, yeah, it's right. This has been enlightening for me today, Natalie, because,
I've loved
I
it.
always think in certain ways, and I am an out-of-the-box thinker. I can think on my feet and change direction and stuff like that. But just those few little things you said, I'm like, actually, yeah, I should make my needs wanted, my wants known. Wants
Absolutely.
known.
Well,
yeah.
Needs
And
absolutely.
I don't think about that very often. I just go, oh, well, that's the way it was.
Because you're important. And it's important to
Yeah.
verbalize. You are
Thank you.
important. And you know what? And this for me has been magic, absolutely magic, because not only do I get to talk to your gorgeous self, but it's so wonderful to think, to literally think, have the opportunity, someone's asking questions and you get to think, because we all creatively, when we're given the opportunity to think, pause, someone asks questions, we come up with some amazing things.
Yeah, we do.
So I'm grateful to you.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful to you for coming on. It's always good to talk to you, and it's always interesting. And I think we always come up with some interesting topics. And look, I mean, I had my questions written down today.
Love it.
Because last time I had one with you, you had questions for me, and I'm like, oh, maybe I need to be a little bit more prepared this time. So Sarah just said, fill your cup. And Jack D said, will we be able to replay this? Of course you will. It'll be on whatever it's called on Instagram. What's it called? Is it just videos?
I don't know. Does it just go into the one with the play, isn't it? It doesn't go into the Reels one. So you've got...
I don't know. Play. And it'll be up on my YouTube channel tomorrow. And if you want it for your YouTube, you just let me know.
Fab.
Yeah, it's good because you had, your last one went up, I think you had about 30, 35 plays in the first few days. I don't know. Look, my YouTube channel's not massive, but people are going back and watching things on there. And usually there's 200 to 400 people go and watch these afterwards. So sometimes I go here, oh, look, there's only 5 people. But then loads of people watching the next few days.
Yeah.
Those 5 people are the ones who get the opportunity to comment live and interact with us.
Which is amazing.
Yeah, I'm back on every Wednesday now, I think till the end of August, September. Lots of great guests. Leandra from LJV Coaching is coming up, not next week, I think the week after. And she says she's jumped on late, so we'll watch the replay on IGTV.
That's it, Instagram TV. Brilliant, thank you.
Sarah shot me is blowing, what are those things called?
The party Ujima flips,
yeah. Yeah, I think it's got a little hat on it. It's a bit small for me to see.
Oh, so actually, one question for you, closing this out. Are you celebrating the Jubilee this weekend? Does that happen in Australia, the Platinum Jubilee for the Queen? Or is that just over here?
No, it does. It's on the TV. I hadn't thought of watching it. We did have a thing on a couple of weeks ago on the TV as well.
Okay.
Look, we're not a republic. We follow the Queen. Queen's our head of state. I don't know. Look, I'd say no, but then every time there's a royal wedding on, I end up sitting there and watching it all. And actually, Sarah shot me, who's here. I think I sat and watched
Daniel with exclamation marks.
Yeah, I can't remember what wedding we sat and watched, or did we watch Diana's funeral together? I don't know. We did something together, which was royal, and we didn't think we were going to because at that time we were out clubbing and partying every night, and we did stay in and watch something. I can't remember which one it was. I think it might have been Diana's funeral. Because we were living together at the time. So, yeah, we watched something royal.
I love it. We've got a whole street party going on the Sunday. We've got a street closure. The police come and close it down. We'll put cars across it. And we've got a whole big street party happening. So it should be quite fun.
I noticed in EastEnders tonight, or from last night in the UK, they had, like on the wall, in one of the houses were all these little faces of the Queen. And as they walked around the room, there was more of them. And I thought, God, guys are really going mad for decorations there in the UK.
Our street's going to be going crazy for Sunday. I'll take pictures and I'll send them to you.
Beautiful. Well,
They'll be on my Instagram anyway.
1982 was it when Diana got married? I remember we had a big street party that day, and we also had a fancy dress parade. And yeah, how old was I in 82? No, it couldn't have been 82. It must have been 81. Yeah, I was 10.
Oh, wow.
My mum, you know how you always get those commemorative cups?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, my mum actually cut out these things off a bag, which looked like the cup, and they made me a yellow cup.
Cute.
So I was dressed up as a cup. How ridiculous is that? A commemorative cup. Go over there, Roxy.
That's a great visual to end on, I think. Just seeing Daniel as a commemorative mug. Brilliant. This has been magic. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming. It's been brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. And as I said to you when I started, I think on the new medication, I'm feeling a lot more switched on. And that was a really good back and forth of dialogue that we shared.
I love that.
Conversation that we
shared.
Yeah, which was really interesting. And yeah, it's changed the way I think. People, when I say that, when I do these lives or when I do a podcast, it changes the way I think, it changes the way I feel about things. They go, well, how does it? Well, it does, because you're having an in-depth conversation with someone who thinks similar to you, and you come away with it going, wow, there's some new ideas I'm going to bounce around.
Yeah, brilliant.
Tell us what your coaching is.
What I do for coaching?
Know where to find you.
Well,
it's not what's behind your head.
No, because that is back to front, although it's a bit wonky now as well. That's back to front. So you can find me on here, I'm NMS Coaching, or online. If you go to the website, it's nmscoaching.co.uk. I also have a podcast like Daniel called Seize the Day, where I have guests on, and I also give some tips and tools for kind of everyday strategies to help us succeed, helping to overcome overwhelm. So lots of overwhelms or overs in that one.
You seem overwhelmed.
Yeah, I did, didn't I? Finding balance, resilience, self-love, self-care, and some, honestly, really fantastic guests, of which, Daniel, I'm literally going to be scheduling. I need to get you on now. You're feeling better. We'll record something. That would be amazing.
Natalie did a podcast with me a few months back, and it was called, I think, Surviving Dark Times or Moving Through
something
Dark
like that.
Times
Yeah, I think
to a Positive Future.
That's
and
it.
The episode is number 137. No, it's not.
Lovely.
I don't know what number it is, but if you go back and have a look, and
you'll
you read
find
the little notes under it. It's show notes, they're called, aren't they?
I
never knew what they were called, and people kept saying to me, will you show my show notes? And I'm like, I don't even know what they are. And then I realized that it's where you write your little caption under the podcast. So Natalie's on there. It was a great conversation, a lot of fun, lots of stuff we went through. So if you haven't had enough of Natalie now and me, go back and listen to that podcast, and you'll find a lot of information out about Natalie and the wonderful life she's got now, and some dark times, but she's here and looks beaming.
Bless you. Great conversation, great person to be with. Oh, I've loved it. Well, enjoy your evening. It's noon now for me, so I might go and have a coffee or some lunch.
And watch Jeremy. No, he's not on anymore, is he?
I don't think he's on anymore. I've got no idea. I'm actually going to go for a bit of a walk, get a bit of fresh air.
The sun's come out.
It's nice. Yeah, it's just trying. I think tomorrow's going to be better.
All right. God bless you. Nice to see you. And we'll catch up again soon.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye, everybody. Bye.
No worries. Bye-bye.
Bye.